My name is Mona Lisa Diallo. It's interesting with that name, people think that I'm from somewhere else, and I understand that. The first name, Mona Lisa, is very rare, and Diallo is from West Africa. Where am I from? I'm from Baltimore City. I was born at Johns Hopkins. I lived in Edmondson Village. I went to St. Cecilia. We moved out into the county, but I was always connected to Baltimore City. When they built the subway, I was maybe one of the first people in it. I want to get out of Reisterstown. The city is where it is. Well, my father is a fourth generation Baltimorean. So his father, the little I know of him, he passed away in Poplar Grove. He had a house and he passed away in Poplar Grove. My great-great-grandfather, I don't know past that. My grandmother, she trekked here and trekked like many did during the second migration. So my grandmother moved here, and my grandmother was a domestic worker. And she was always very distinguished, red nails all the time, hair back in a bun, and she loved her children. My father had this idea that if you lived in an area, you necessarily didn't have to be of the area, so he felt that education was extremely important. I went to a private white school called Sacred Heart, and it was terrible for me, and I kept it inside. I never really talked to my father about it. For me, as a young black girl, they used to play with my hair like they thought it was a motorcycle, and I had two pigtails, so they would grab my hair and try to ride. I was never invited to too much. And we're talking late 70s, early 80s. My love for Baltimore comes from a guttural place. The smells of Baltimore, the smell of Old Bay, seeing signs like Domino's Sugar, all of this familiarity that I had, the fact that my mother was a amazing baseball player, and she coached, and baseball was like the Orioles were it. She was a force, my mom. And we always came in the city to play. This is my route that I take to go to Druid Hill Park. It would be quicker if I went through the other side of Bryant Avenue and Parkwood, but the open market drug markets that are there without any police observation, it's too dangerous for me. So I could take a stroll with my dog the long way to feel safe. Druid Hill Park, when you said Druid Hill Park to me, man, it was just the center of Baltimore. It was the heartbeat. I got my first scar there on my knee because I jumped off of a swing that my father said don't jump off of. Although some people felt like it wasn't a safe place, I felt it was a safe place because there were memories there that my father gave me, that my mom gave me, you know. Yeah, it's beautiful. I said, I have to buy a house near Druid Hill Park. However, it's difficult living across the 2 blocks basically from Druid Hill, and you would think one would want to just walk over there. However, it's difficult. I've seen drag racing on Auchentoroly. I've seen in the middle of the day. I've seen trash being thrown out, which I don't know if I'm walking across the street, somebody's going to throw a bottle. I've seen cars speed up when I'm trying to go across the street, which is 14 seconds. So I want you to notice, you see that pedestrian walkway, the pedestrian light right there? It's covered by trees. Simple fix, cut the tree around the pedestrian way so people could see. But if you look across here, you see that there's a crosswalk sign for people that are coming from the west going east. Come on. It's a green. You see the car almost hit me, and that wasn't even her light. All right, so if you look at this safety light and you wanted to cross this street, there is none. How am I supposed to know when to cross? There's no signal, nothing. How am I supposed to know when to cross with my dog safely? So we're in Druid Hill Park, and you may hear a lot of construction behind us because the new Druid Hill Lake is I believe it's in its 4th year of redesign. It's $275 million, which will help design some features like a bridge that crosses the lake itself. I believe we're going to have canoes and actual swimming that can happen there in the lake. Hopefully, all the racing that you saw, all of the high speed, the pedestrian issues will be solved by the city. It needs to be invested. If this is the heart of Baltimore City, Druid Hill, it needs to be concentrated assistance for the outlying communities. How you gonna have a fly park and not a fly neighborhood? In some of the scenes you saw the lack of safety, pedestrian ways. We saw all of that. That's an easy fix, and it keeps people safe, especially if the city is not going to, DOT is not going to uphold the fact that the community wants reduction of lanes. They see the dangers of being able to cross over from the park from the Mondawmin side as versus the Reservoir Hill side. It's not fair. I think when the city supports that, you will see a better community. Sometimes this park, it feels like it's so good to hear silence or the birds or it's such a retreat area, this park. How you doing? When I had my granddaughter, my first granddaughter, 13 years ago, I brought her to the park and I would put her hand on the trees. Her little hand. Even when I was away in Europe, if you saw somebody and heard their accent and you would say, "Hey, you from Baltimore?" And they'd go, "Yeah, I'm from Baltimore." And then we would talk about the things we miss. And the top 3, it was number 1, it was crab cakes, crabs. Number 2, always Druid Hill Park. Druid Hill Park. And number 3 was the music. That's one of my favorite trees. Come on. My ideal walk would look like I could, number one, walk to the park without seeing trash thrown out of cars of people that don't live around here. That's number one. I would like all the sidewalks to be even and safe to walk on. And I think about like, I would like not to have so much pollution. Just the idea that I have to walk 2 blocks to a park and the amount of car admissions and dangerous car admissions to a community that has a large amount of children. I care about the fact that children in our areas, there's an increase in asthma. That's what I'm concerned with. I've never seen my neighbors go to the park unless it's a party. Not to go for a stroll, not to go for a walk, not to, hang out. No, it's always been, it's a party. This is our garden. It's maintained by community members. It's still growing, some peppers are still growing in there. It's a garden that's maintained by a couple of community members. And one of the community members, she actually will divvy out to who's ever sitting on the porch. Hey, I got some peppers today. Would you like some? Wait a minute. Bella, you know where your house is, don't you? Don't you, Bella?